Welcome back to our podcast. I am Rebecca from Rooster and Hen Resources. We don't quite have a name yet for this podcast, but we are considering calling it Side Door Conversations, connecting through hard topics. So today I have a special guest with me. We have Lauren. Lauren and I met at a art center event, and we just connected quickly. As you know, Rooster and Hen is a nonprofit that helps with grief support and grief education through art and story. So meeting Lauren at an artsy event made sense. And the artsy event happened to be also about immersive learning. So it really melts together the art and education piece of Rooster and Hen. And I'll have Lauren introduce herself. Lauren, will you tell us a bit about you?
Sure. So my name is Lauren, formerly Lauren Clark, now something else. Wait, do we do last names?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, formerly Lauren Clark, now Lauren Adego K. I'm originally from Detroit. I've been living in Chicago for 3 years now, and I love it here. I met my husband. I've built great friends, and I'm super excited to have made a name for myself in the education nonprofit space. This is after, I guess I'll say this is my second career. My first career was in the military. I graduated from West Point, which is the United States Military Academy. It's like the Army Academy. And then got out really suddenly and had to figure out what to do. I knew I liked writing and I knew I wanted to work around education, maybe a nonprofit. So I decided to try out fundraising so I could get a bird's eye view of the landscape. And it's been exactly that for me. I really like fundraising, and I'm really glad that I finally met somebody who cares about, like, who cares as much about doing what they say they're going to do and about the quality of their work and the integrity of the organization. And I'm so glad that Rebecca and I met and we get to work together.
Yeah, so after we met, I basically pretty much with permission stalked Lauren. And so she gave me this QR code that takes me to her LinkedIn. But because, I am technically challenged, I thought that all I needed to do was to put my phone over the code. I didn't know actually that you had to tap, connect or something. Yeah, that didn't make sense. So I really wanted to connect with Lauren again. Already in the meeting, that first meeting, I gave her a copy of our book. We just chatted and talked about just a tiny bit about loss and tiny bit about our background. And then just out of nowhere and everywhere, Lauren started sharing with me, oh my goodness, let me connect you to this place. Oh my goodness, you need to talk to that place. You are really your story really will resonate with this person. You need to meet this person. Do you want to come with me to this social gathering next month? We'll go together. Where do you live? Oh, it's not that far.
So I stalked her back, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, I might have stalked her back.
And it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful. So Lauren now works with us at Rooster and Hen. She helps with our development, whether that's fundraising through grants, partnerships, whatever, what have you. But it's really about connecting us with people who care, people who want to get involved, and the people we want to support, and the communities who need it. So today, we wanted to share just a little bit about our own story, maybe a little bit about our own personal why. Like for Rooster and Hen, it became a nonprofit because of my own personal why when my college roommate was dying. And after her death, I was prompted to create a children's book when our family really needed it, when my father-in-law was dying. So it went quickly from a personal mission to a professional one when I realized that the need was greater than our family. The need was greater than the families that I knew. And I think organically it has grown into, training, workshops, and education, as well as resources beyond books, beyond maybe what typically you might see as grief literature. So I would love to ask and have Lauren share about her personal why, maybe a story around loss, change, or transition that really impacted you, Lauren? Or even made you, when we first met at that art event, go, ooh, that resonated a bit? Or, ooh, like I never thought about grief that way? Or, ooh, I wonder what other people might think about my grief story. Is there a story like that you want to share?
It's honestly harder to pick which one because I feel like there's so
Mm,
many stories about grief, and getting to know you more and understand the way that you qualify grief has been very liberating.
mm,
Especially in the military, it's really normal to move all the time and to have to move here and to change jobs. And I think that instability has followed being comfortable with things changing. I am very comfortable with change. But I know, like I said, I've been in Chicago for 3 years and I've had so many different jobs. And I didn't know that that wasn't normal, that it wasn't normal to only stay at a job for 6 months and that you're supposed to stay
mm,
and stay for a long time to plant roots. And I think it's been recent that the grief is catching up with me in terms of all the different friends that I've had to leave behind. Or, I mean, I kept in touch with a lot of people, but just having to change your routine all the time and having to
mm,
change what you expect and the way that you interact and learn a new culture, it's been liberating to hear you talk about grief in that way and for that to be included in grief, because I think that's a lot. Those are the tiny cuts that hurts. It's almost like the
mm,
microaggressions of grief, that
mm-hmm.
they're hard to talk about and you don't get days off for that. So I think I've really been sitting with the smaller grief
Mm-hmm.
while also learning how to, I guess, how to be comfortable with the bigger grief that goes on, like losses of family members that are really close to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost my brothers while I was in college. I lost two of them. One my junior year and one my senior year at West Point. And it was just crazy. I mean, even thinking about the ways that the different commands dealt with it. So the first time, the commander that we had was not very friendly and he was not very understanding and he gave me a really hard time about going home. Whereas the second time it happened, of course, the second time somebody dies, when it's two losses back to back, I think people are a lot more respectful of the gravity of the situation, especially
Mm-hmm.
because it felt really sudden and they were only a year apart.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference in command, and like I think right now I'm thinking about the way that sometimes you have to perform in order to have your grief respected. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not very comfortable with sadness. I don't do sad very well. I don't like it. I prefer to be angry. I prefer to be like hyperactive, to be trying to fix things. So in order for my grief to be taken seriously, I had to be a little bit more vulnerable and show people
Mm-hmm.
that I actually was sad. And I did need to go home, even though I could push through and handle staying at school and getting everything done. That's not the best way to deal with it. And that's not something that came naturally to me to show people that I actually was sad.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there might have been like a difference in reaction, like comparing the commanders, not just even the two of them, but maybe because of the military environment you're in, versus if you were to tell anybody else, perhaps a different employer, perhaps a different school, perhaps a different audience, hey, my brother died suddenly. Do you think that reaction would be different?
I do, and I think I've been seeing it, when I tell people in the civilian world about things that happened at West Point, particularly around the time when my brothers were passing and what the environment was like and how hard it was to get leave for that, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing the shock on y'all's faces. I guess it does kind of remind me that it would be different. Most of my friends, since I went to a military college, most of my friends are either still in the army or were, I guess, raised in a similar environment. So within my friend group, I don't think we know how to deal with it very well. But the civilian friends I have they treat grief very differently. They treat death and loss a lot differently too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, I don't know. I think if they feel a lot more untouchable, whereas
Mm.
in the military, everybody plays with death all the time. Like it's just like part of the job, that you might die. And
Mhm.
as morbid
Mhm.
as that may be, I think it kind of makes it a little bit more flippant. When people pass
Mhm.
away, it's harder to take it seriously because you could die anytime.
Mhm.
Whereas in the civilian world, you don't think about that much. You don't think about the fact that you could pass away at any time. It's not as in your face, and it's not an occupational hazard for most people. So it's
Right.
just not on the table every day.
Right. And you signed up to go to West Point.
Hmm.
You volun basically volunteered to die for your country, where
Yeah.
it's very different for the rest of us.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think a lot of people don't realize that they're volunteering to die for the country. I think a lot of
Mm.
people either feel untouchable and they're like, well, if I die, I won't know. Like it'll just happen and that'll be it. And
Mm.
they're not really reconciling with the fact that they are offering themselves up as almost like a sacrifice to the nation. But I think for me, it was that. Like I remember thinking about like, okay, if I was going to die young, this would at least be for a worthy cause. And it
Mm.
would be something that would make sense. I don't think everybody is as conscious about the fact that they could pass away in that profession, but I do think that there's like maybe a like passive suicidal ideation for most
Mm.
people in the military because you kind of have to if you have a life that is already worth living, that is
Mhm.
already full and rich, I feel like you're less likely to be willing to throw it away for the idea of a nation. But when you're still
Mm.
fighting to build a life that's worth living, when you're still fighting to create a nation and a community and an environment that feels worthy of you living through, then you're willing to die for the possibility of it to be better. And I think that's something that we don't talk about. Like most people wouldn't recognize that they were probably a little suicidal. They probably wouldn't recognize that that's actually not normal to be okay with dying tomorrow. Like that's not a normal thing. But for us, it was very normal to be okay with that possibility, even if you don't think about it or talk about it often. I think it is a very flippant attitude towards death.
Mhm. When you say that, I'm like wondering about like when you're talking about like creating or building or working toward a life that's worth living, right?
Hmm.
It reminds me of the word purpose, right? And calling and intention. So if you can live a life with a lot of purpose, and when you sign up for the military, it's almost written. It's blatantly there. You don't need to go find it.
Hmm.
It's obvious for you, it's obvious for anybody else who encounters you. And I wonder, like, because it's so blatant that you just signing up gives purpose in your life, then does it also give purpose in like your death, right? And almost necessitates or facilitates then death being handled flippantly because you have to, because it could happen at any time, whether that is healthy or not, whether that is human or not. That's really hard to say, right, from my civilian perspective. And then I don't have a profession in education as obvious of a threat, right? So I wonder sometimes if the flippantness and the ability to adjust is something you need to build up in order to make it through and to survive. Or else, how can you? Like, how can you then face the potential loss every time, whether you're deployed, every time you do a training, every time you switch jobs, right? Every time you switch stations? It almost like, I don't know, does it desensitize or does it not? Like, is what I'm saying resonating at all? Like the things that are coming out?
It is. I think what I've witnessed is people wouldn't think that they're desensitized. What I've seen is people create very fast friendships. And
Mm.
it's easy to settle into a routine and it feels comfortable very quickly because for one you don't have a choice about where you're going to go, so there's no sense in worrying about, do I actually like it
Mm.
here or would I rather live somewhere else? Well, this is where you are for the next couple of years, so let's just settle in. And I think that is freeing to a lot of people, and I found it to be
Mm.
freeing too. Even it's about that time when most of my friends are getting out and they're all so nervous about picking jobs, and I keep trying to tell them, like, you can just quit. Like, it's not a 5-year contract anymore. Like, you can just say you don't want to do it anymore. You can try and then decide, was something that I
Mhm.
really had to learn how to do,
Mhm.
to make a choice and to do something and then decide whether or not it was for me, because that's not the same freedom that you're offered in the army. And I think that it's good because it did teach me how to be more present with where I am and how to enjoy the time that I had in each place, because whether or not I liked it, I was going to be there for a certain amount of time, and feeling like
Mm.
it was out of my control made it easier to make the most out of it.
Mm.
Because if you feel like you can always do something about it, it's kind of hard to settle, I think.
I hear you.
Um, but when you feel like, well, you just have to, it's a lot easier to make the best out of a situation. I don't think it was all bad. I think that was one of the positive ways that the flippancy towards death and towards like grief and things not being very permanent, I think
Mhm.
that made it easier to deal with.
Mhm.
I do think that as a society, I hope that we would treat things with more care, treat lives with more care, treat people's willingness to sacrifice with more care. I think a lot of times, as a soldier, you were just told to do something, but I wasn't just a soldier, I was an officer. So I'm in charge of making some of those decisions. And I think
Mm.
when I had that freedom, and now talking to people who are enlisted versus other officers, the way that we engage with politics and with the world and with our experience in the army is very different, because the soldiers who weren't in the position to make choices, they're pretty resigned to whatever's going to happen, and it's a
Mm.
lot more jovial. It is what it is. Whereas for me and other officers that I've talked to who felt like they had a larger sphere of influence, I've noticed we don't tend to be as okay with just putting up with things as they are. We're trying to make it better. So I think that there's a way that we could balance both. I think that grief is something that we have to take time to feel. And
Mhm.
in the army, we don't really allow ourselves the time to do that. But I do think we are very present when
Mm.
we need to be, which is something that I'm grateful that I learned and am taking with me. I still think that there's a way where we could be present and enjoy the moment that we're in while also not settling or feeling like we just have to put up with with whatever's going on in the world, because that's not going to work. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's worth feeling sad about having to move or having to leave or put your foot down or end a relationship to get to the place where you feel like you are respected and well received. If you get in the habit of just allowing things to be how they are too much, it's also not good. But also running from everything doesn't work either. So it's a balance I'm still trying to learn.
Mhm. I think a balance all of us are trying to learn, right? And it also sounds like the environment of the military is m- maybe you would call it ironic or maybe unexpected, where the taking away of choice and freedom actually gave liberation,
Mm-hmm.
because you have no control anyway. So you're almost forced to make the most of what you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just do the best you can do with what you have in front of you, with the decision you can make that's within your control. I think that's what I hear in what you're saying. Like, there's agency, there's a lot of agency, even though there wasn't in control of where you're placed, what position, what job, what task you have to achieve or accomplish. But there's a lot of agency presence in how you get it done so you can get it done, right? And I also hear you saying, outside of like the military environment, there's maybe this sense that you don't have control over any of those placements, right? But you actually do. So how can there be like a both and. It's not either you have control or you don't. Either you get told what to do or you don't, right? There in life there's a lot of gray, right? Sometimes you make some choices on your own, and sometimes those choices are great for you and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're balanced, sometimes they're educated, sometimes they're rash, right? And I'm just hearing you speaking about the good that could have been better from your experience and that transition into, what you call civilian life. And I wonder for you, and I wonder about that part of your story, because transition is also, integrated with grief. Because even though you're very used to change, even though many people in the military are used to change, and there's no time to quote unquote deal with it or even process it, because it's going to happen. You don't have 6 months to think about it. It's happening in
Yeah.
6 days. You pack up and
Hmm.
go. And that helps you, right? That helps you move fast, move fast. But I'm wondering, as you transition back now into, I guess, civilian life, there is that time to process. And you were saying, the grief is coming back. So, what is that transition like for you now that you have more agency? You have more space to process, dissect, and to feel. What has that been like for you?
Mm. It's overwhelming and
Mm.
lonely. I think
Mm.
especially because I didn't get out at the same time as all my friends.
Mm-hmm.
They all are getting out. You're supposed to do 5 years after West Point. I got injured, so I got out after just a year. So then that made it a very lonely process for me because
Mm.
everybody, they couldn't relate to what I was going through.
Yeah.
And it takes me longer to realize what's happening because when I got out, they said it was going to take 9 months probably. It ended up taking 4 months. So I did not, I had to find a job really, really quickly and move and figure out what I was going to do next in a
Mm-hmm.
really tight timeline. That was overwhelming. And I think when I got out again, it was just like, okay, you're here now. Let's make the best of the situation. I remember the first time that I quit a job, I cried because, and it was just like, it was so confusing to me because I finally could make the choice that, okay, I don't like this. I don't just have to put up with this. I can make a decision to go somewhere else and to find better and to find a better fit. And it was
Mm-hmm.
so confusing and so hard. I also think that there's even when you move jobs in the military, there's a certain level of continuation that makes it really stable.
Mm. Mm.
So, luckily, when I moved jobs the first time, I stayed in my same apartment. And
Mm.
that made all the difference because recently I moved, I've moved 3 times in the past. Well, I've been in 3 different apartments, I guess. Yeah, this is
Mm-hmm.
my third apartment in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So the first apartment I stayed in for 2 years, that was nice and that created a sense of stability. But then it
Mm-hmm.
also felt like, okay, I'm a little restless, I'm getting a little itchy, I'm ready to see something different. Um, and then moving again after I got married, moving and having a new job at the same time and a new husband was very overwhelming. So I think
Mm.
not having anything that was consistent and the same is really what made me aware of how different things are. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
to create your own structure in civilian life, which is confusing because I didn't realize how type B I was until I got out the army and I was like, "Oh, you don't need a schedule at all. Like that's just not I can do a schedule, but I'm not really going to make up one, and having to create my own schedules is really difficult or having to be really intentional about planning things because we're not going to have mandatory fun. You're not going to have mandatory things that you have to go to socialize with people. You have to plan your own outings and engagements and make yourself go even when you don't feel like it. I also I remember there's one friend that I had when I got out and she was a civilian. I met her when I moved to Chicago and she was never at home. She was always out doing something and she was always on the go. And I just remember being like, why do I feel like I can't do that? Like why does she feel like she can just get up and go on a Thursday
Mm.
night and do something random and I don't feel like that? And it made me realize just how trapped I felt and how
Mm.
rigid I had made my life. Like I got out the army and I created a very similar structure for myself. I didn't even realize the first job I was in, I would get up, I'd work out, and then I'd make breakfast and then I'd clean my house before I left so that way I could come back because that was a rule at West Point that your room had to be inspectable when you left for class. So I was doing that. And then eventually I realized actually I don't know if I like doing that. So I tried something different and realizing that I was in control of it was freeing but also overwhelming. Because the first
Yeah.
month when I stopped doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of hard to manage a house without anybody like with feeling like I'm gonna get in trouble. I think learning how to do stuff without the anxiety has been really new and embracing all the freedoms that I have was took a while and still happening. Like the freedom to say no was like the only thing that you have in the army. And I realized that too. A lot of my friends like they just don't want to do anything on the weekends because the whole week they're forced to do things. And so to get out of that mindset, to be able to say like, okay, I'm going to do something I can say yes, and that can be a choice too. That can be liberating. Not just
Mm.
saying no. Saying no is not the only power I have. I can choose to say yes to something too that can be all mine and my choice. I don't know. It sounds trivial, but it was really I remember just I kept having these realizations like, wow, I can just like get up and do this. I can wear whatever I want. I can like change my hair tomorrow. I can I went and got a bunch of piercings one day because I was like, I can just have all these piercings in my ear.
So
So
show it
I
to us,
just
show it to us, show it to us.
well, they fell out now, but yeah, I had these two pierced and I also had one like right here-ish. I
Mm-hmm.
kept these three, but I had two more up here, but I kept sleeping on the wrong side of my head, so they didn't last. But it was really fun while it lasted, you know. I'm also thinking I started writing poetry 2 years
Mm.
after I got out, and I wrote this poem about I don't know if you've read the book. What is it called? The Secret Life of the Bees.
I have not read it. I
No,
remember the
it's a
cover.
movie.
Yes, I
It's
remember
also a
the cover.
movie
It
with
is.
Queen Latifah and a
Yes.
bunch of other rock stars. It's a great movie. I love that. I love that movie. I love the book. And I remember there's a part in the book I don't I you know, and I can't even really remember. It's like such an old memory. I remember watching the movie with my cousin when I was too young to be watching it. And they had a part where they said that if you put bees in the jar and then you leave the cap on, it doesn't take very long to break their spirit. Like they'll just stop trying to escape. And that is what I realized is happening was that I had just
Mm.
gotten so used to having structures and rules that I was doing it to myself. Like the lid was open, the jar was open, and I still wasn't flying out. So I wrote poems about just how you can kind of domesticate yourself, you know? Like it's worse than domestication. It's like you're trapping yourself.
It's more than taming, right?
Yeah, it's more than taming. It's like almost a prison. And
Mm-hmm.
I think feeling sad for all the time that I lost from doing that was hard. And also trying to figure out how to do it in a healthy way, you know? Like the second job I quit, I was like, I feel like I'm being too responsible. I need to go and have fun. I went to Italy for a month and like then went to Mexico and just like it was silly. I mean, it was fun. It was really, really fun. I wouldn't say I regret it, but I blew through all my savings, you know, really fast just because I wanted to prove that I didn't have to follow rules. Why did I do that? Probably could have done it a little bit more sustainably. Probably could have not had such or like, you know, just a visceral reaction to it. But I was just like, I was just free, just loose and free and having a great time. So I think that there's like when with grief, I always say that like grief is all the love you didn't get to express. But when it's about
Mm-hmm.
situations, not about people, then there is something you can do about it. And it's really hard not to try and like throw it all at the situation right then and there, which is what I did. Like when it's a person and the person's gone, you kind of just need to like get it out because there's only a certain amount of time where it's going to be acceptable, like blah, 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 where you can grieve that person. But when you're grieving an experience, you have the rest of your life to make it up and to give that love and that experience back. So if anybody's grieving an experience, I would say pace yourself. Not the same. It doesn't have to be the same.
No. And I would say and argue that even when you're grieving a person or certain people in your lives, it is like what you said, and it can feel like the love you didn't get to express, but you still can. You still
Mm-hmm.
can in some way, right? And then I was hearing you say, like, even though you said it quickly, I caught it. You said there's only like so much time that you're like kind of given to grieve that person or expected. It sounded like one of those rules in society, or sounded like one of those pressures where you felt like there's a timeline to your grief. Have you felt that specifically, maybe about your brothers or anybody else? Like you can only grieve them and pour out those feelings for a designated period, and after that period, it's not acceptable anymore.
Yes, for sure. I think um it's, yes, I have felt that.
Mm.
I don't think I realized how much I was playing by other people's rules until you just said it. So forgive me if I am a little stunned because you're right.
No,
You don't
no.
have to. You don't have to limit yourself. I think it feels less appropriate. Every year
Mm.
when the same time it hurts the same, it feels less appropriate and it feels like I should be over it and I should be able to move on. Especially being an adult and like having bills to pay and having things to do that maybe don't lend themselves well to just mourning the way that I would want to, which I don't even know what that would look like.
Are you looking for a way to talk to your child or maybe a student about a recent death that's happened? Or maybe you and your family are facing a pretty difficult diagnosis. Or maybe your community is facing the loss of a very important person. And it's really hard sometimes to know what to say, what to do, and how to have these conversations, especially with young ones. Oftentimes, books can help. Children's book about grief and loss can be a natural way to open up the conversation. That's gentle, age appropriate, and also approachable. Moving in Forever is such a book. It's written by me, Rebecca Wu, from personal experience. It's also written from a child's perspective, and it's a tender story about love, loss, and family. It offers understanding and support for every heart that grieves, no matter the age. In summary, it walks through two nephews who take care of their Aunt Carrie, who's terminally ill. And while there's lots of fun that opens up, and she's the coolest aunt in the world, Carrie is also very sick. In her last days, she wants to be surrounded by love. And that's what the two boys do. They take care of her and remember her in their hearts forever. A note to grown-ups is that children don't process death the same way adults do. So it's important to support their feelings appropriately as you read through the book. We have some resources to help on our webpage, movinginforever.com. You'll see some downloadable resources to help support your journey, and also a host of different workshops and seminars and classes that we have. If you keep scrolling down, you'll see a way to meet the author. You could bring me to your classroom, your libraries, and your community. We'll do story time and an art activity. There's also videos of our podcast interview with Dee Dee Jackson Foundation, a stop-motion animation by Bree Reeds, a popular YouTube storyteller, and a bilingual read-aloud that I do in Cantonese and English. And if you keep scrolling down, you'll see the story and pictures of the story behind the story. We hope that this resource helps in your process and in your journey.
I think I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but I
It's
hope
okay.
okay. I remember seeing Black Panther 2 and just
Mm-hmm.
sobbing the whole film because it was so
Oh.
beautiful and just feeling like there was they did grief so well in that film. And I remember being so upset because we don't have a lot of those ways in my culture. I don't think that that's one of the ways that the African American diaspora hasn't really caught up. We don't have good rituals around how to grieve. We don't have good rituals around how to bury people and how to make it an experience that feels authentic and truly freeing. Funerals feel like sometimes performative, and that doesn't always allow people to experience their emotions. I remember at my brother's funeral, my mom telling me, okay, that's enough, stop crying. because I was just so upset and I was crying. And I was being loud, I understand. We had to like move on. There's like times where we have to do stuff. We only have the church for an hour, so come on now. Like we gotta wrap it
Oh.
up. But I remember that. I remember finally feeling like I was in a space and I could finally be sad and I was really letting it out. And she was like, okay, that's enough. And my mom is so sweet. She wasn't even like, it wasn't rude. It just is the way our society set up that, like, okay, that's enough. We set 20 minutes aside for everybody to sing and cry, and now we're going to be done. And we need all the meatballs, and we're all going to play some music, and it'll be fine. So I think, like I said, I don't do sadness very well. I think learning how to feel safe with my sadness, even when there's not like an audience to catch me or somebody to be like, okay, that's enough. And
Hmm.
the trust that I'll come back out of it by myself. I think that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah. And I think, my like faces that I'm making, my reactions, nothing on your mom, no shade on your mom at all. Because you're right. Like, unfortunately, right? We've developed this protocol for a funeral service. There's the visitation, and then there's the memorial, and then there's the cemetery. Like there's so many things that happen
Hmm.
in a certain order, and it has to happen within a certain time period because you
Hmm.
got to book it, right? There's another family coming through. They need to use the space. And I was in this conference and symposium place recently called Endwell, and it talks about how in order to end well, we have to live well. And it talks a lot about different end of life care and like the history of it, where a long time ago there were no funeral homes. Families buried their own people, they stayed with the person who's dying. A long, long time ago, there were also no hospitals, and not everybody had access to hospice, hospital, etc. Right? You did everything within your family, your village, your tribe, and that really educated what dying looked like for everybody. That helped bring story quicker to the next generation, and that gave opportunity to cry longer, right? Because you had the space and time. And I think part of that is really, also the system and the environment, right? Definitely not your mom. And I feel like as mom, seeing your own child pass is out of order, right? Not the order you would expect. So I wonder for her, how many things she's trying to hold, right, for the funeral, how to be, like you said, appropriate, proper for previous generations, right? And I think generations in the past have maybe a lot more propriety than maybe our generation now over how things must be done, ought to be done, need to look like, what's respectful, what's not respectful. So a lot of things to hold. And I also am thinking about like that container, right? Like you had finally found that space to let it all out. And then even the slightest, sweetest, like just reminder that it can't all be let out from your mom. Then where do we find these containers for it, right? Like like holding it back all of a sudden is hard to do. But where can we pour this out, contain it, put it on a shelf for now? Like like gently put it on a shelf for now. Like you are important. All these feelings are important. Those tears are important. Your feelings are valuable. It's just not the place right now. Where do we put it gently and say, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you. And like you said, open that jar, right? Open that jar and let it out and let it be free. And I think like what you were saying, like there's not those rituals, there's not those spaces, there's not even that protocol. Well, where do I put it? What is my container? Where is a safe shelf? Because no one has ever taught me that it's okay to bring out that jar of feelings outside of the funeral home. Do I do it at dinner?
Mm.
Do I do it at breakfast? Or more likely, do I do it by myself when no one's around, when I'm all alone in the closet underneath the sheets where no one can see me, because then no one can judge,
Mm.
right? And then no one can tell me it's too loud, too much, too little, too soft. And I'm just wondering, like, is there a container space for you? Is there a shelf for you? Is there a space for you to bring that back out? I
And
don't know.
what I think is if you don't have the right container, it's going to spill out. And like I said, I
Mm.
don't do sadness very well. So at first, it was a lot of anger. And it was just working out too hard because I was trying to just not think about things or
Mm.
numbing or trying to just have the TV on all the time so I didn't have to think about it. And now it spills out differently because I
Mm-hmm.
still don't think I know exactly how to put the container on the right shelf so I can pull it down when it's time and not knock everything else over. But I remember there's a man who works with me now and he looks just like my brother. Like he looks just like one of the ones. He acts like him. He dresses similarly. The first time I saw him, it's my first day at work, and I had to excuse myself to go cry for a second because I
Oh,
was just like, oh, he just reminds me so much of him.
yeah.
I think putting it in that jar and being able to laugh with him, and I now when I see him, it doesn't make me sad. It makes me happy to see somebody who reminds me so much of my brother. But learning how to take it from something that would just be inappropriate and being mad at myself for crying at my first day at work to being like, okay, this is I can feel it. I'm gonna excuse myself, collect myself, and come back ready to engage and to not make this person feel weird that I just met. I think it gets better with time, or at least it has
Totally.
for me.
Well, totally. I get that completely. And that container could look different, right? Like I
Mhm,
might have used the word jar. It might not work. It could be basket. It could be bag.
mhm,
It could be mesh. It could be made of so many things. And I appreciate what you said because it's all learning. Because even though, even though we've encountered grief, loss, death, transition before in our lives, we can't say every future loss and death is ever the same because it's not, right? It's a different situation, it's a different person. We're different people at a different stage when that happened, right? So I think all of it, whether it knocks down other things on the shelf, whether it's not a shelf at all, right?
mhm,
Whether it's in your backpack, right? Whether it's in your pocket, like all those places and spaces and approaches, I think is unique to you. And you're going to, like, all of us are going to figure out what is working and what isn't. And as you're exploring, things aren't going to always work out the way we anticipate. And I think that's the part, right? Like, that's what I've been witnessing. That's what I've been feeling. That's what I've been hearing. That messy part. That messy part that feels uninvited, unacceptable sometimes, because we had to excuse ourselves, right? And collect ourselves to come back because that's the appropriate thing. And I do think about and fantasize what a world will look like if we're just okay. If we're literally okay. Not that you're disrespectful, right? Or indecent, but it's like if all feelings are okay and that we don't need to excuse ourselves. Like we're
mhm,
so empathetic, compassionate and in touch. Like of course, and instead of excusing yourself, people will come around you and give you a hug if that's what you permitted, right? It would just be this embrace, like, oh my goodness, I get it, right?
mhm,
And then that gentleman may or may not feel weird at the beginning, but then come to this realization, like, oh wow, I reminded her of her late brother. I can understand why she'd be upset or she'd feel all these feelings.
mhm,
And that awareness, I think, brings us a little closer and connects us more to everyone's story because there's a lot of excusing. There's a
mhm,
lot of excusing of ourselves. And just like you said, whether military or being trapped like the bees that lid, we're so accustomed to the things that dictate how we live that we don't even know that it's not there anymore. And there are some things, like I say to my kids and my students, structures and rules are there to keep you safe so that you can learn and have fun more freely, right? But too much structure can stifle. So that balance is really hard to achieve, one, and to even like identify and figure out what that even needs to look like, right? So I
Yeah.
wanted just to like respond with that.
No, and I'm thinking about in the Barbie movie where it's I think the one of the Barbies is a lawyer. It's lawyer Barbie, and she's in the courtroom, and
Yeah,
she's like,
yeah, yeah,
"No,"
yeah.
and I am mad because this is upsetting, and
Hmm.
it does not take away from my ability to be rational. I can be mad and rational at the same time.
Hmm.
I feel like that was just like, oh yeah, that's how you do it. Like, because I find myself always having to be like, I'm not mad, and it's like, no, you are mad, but I can be mad and I can like because this is upsetting. Whatever we're talking about, it is upsetting. And the anger, learning how to put my anger at the problems, not at people, has been really helpful. So that way I can be angry without people feeling threatened, without people feeling unsafe, without people feeling like I'm attacking them. So I can hold my emotions without it being an indictment of their character or without it
Hmm.
demanding that they behave differently. 'Cause that's not necessarily what I need to happen. It's just I don't like whatever it is that I'm speaking about, whatever it is that's got me so worked up, I would like to be able to feel those feelings without being dismissed as rational, without being, I guess it's just like there are some things we should be upset about. You know, the world is
Hmm.
kind of crazy right now. We should be able to
Hmm.
be a little bit angry about some of the things that are going on without it being, without that meaning that we aren't being rational. Because if we were really looking at things soberly, we would be angry at what's going
Yes.
on.
Yes. I mean, there are so many things that can anger us, so many things that hurt us, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
part of us that's hurt or harmed by what we see, what we experience, that it creates this anger and this need for, whether you call it justice or whether you call it compassion, whatever you want to call it, right? And I think that, that brings into the conversation that both and concept, right? I can be both devastated at the loss of my family member and I can be hopeful for my future, right? I can be both so angry at what I see right now before me, at the situation and how the leaders are handling it, and I could be completely rational and knowing logically we need a phased approach to figure this out. Like, I can completely be upset about how someone disagrees with me, but be also completely understanding of why they would think that way, given, their background, their experience, and their understanding. So I think it's hard, whether in grief, whether in loss, whether in current events, when we take a side and we don't recognize that you're actually, it could be both and, right? It's almost always both and. It's not either you're sad or you're mad or you're happy. You could be all those things, right? Simultaneously. And then I wanted to, one, end our conversation with a little art activity, with a little creative activity. We spent a lot of time talking, and I think also in our society, in an American culture, we prioritize talking or writing and sharing. But I think in many of our communities and cultures, it might not be very verbal, Expression isn't always verbal. And I thought we would create and make something, right? So I asked you to come up with some blocks, and I think you have some Legos. And
Those.
yes, I have Legos too. Or we should say bricks if they are not Lego branded.
Okay.
We
Okay.
have bricks. We got bricks. I wanted to give a little prompt of what we've been talking about. And I've been hearing balance a lot from our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why don't we create a structure with whatever pieces we have, what balance looks like? Whether you want to talk about, you know, balancing what it means from military life to civilian life, or whether it is balancing about your anger versus your credibility, whatever the balance is, like balancing what comes out and what comes in, whatever that balance is, or all of them. Let's make a creation, a model, a structure, a piece, an artwork that has to do with balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get
And
to
then
it.
and then we can share it and then I'm going to show some pieces that I'm going to pick to show balance. And we didn't start with the same pieces, so it's not like one of those exercises where we have the same things and we come up with different ones. But I show some of your
this
pieces
is
too.
random stuff that I have.
Yeah. I got this piece
It's
that I
random
really liked.
picks.
Oh yeah, I like this one a lot. It reminded me of like half a bridge, but it's like kind of translucent, kind of not. So
I
I'm gonna
really
use that.
like this. It looks like leaves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of leaves. And this whole time we've been talking, I've been playing with this guy with the axe. So I feel like he's definitely gonna get some good
He's gonna
features.
get some. He's gonna get featured. He's gonna have a
Yes,
highlight,
definitely
spotlight.
need to be highlighted.
Uh-huh.
There's also a
Um,
bike that I'm trying to figure out what to do with. It's a little broken. One of the wheels is missing.
doesn't it
Really
feel that way
cute.
sometimes though? A
Yes,
little
it does.
wobbly.
Gotta keep on pedaling.
Yeah, a little wobbly. And then you think that when people see you riding a wobbly bike, I don't know, maybe a few things come to mind. Like, why is no one stopping to help me? One.
Literally.
Or like, oh my goodness, do they think I'm crazy? Two. Or like, goodness gracious, am I wobbling? Like, you
Or it's
don't
like,
even know.
and sometimes it's like the awe that they have. They're like, wow, that's so cool. No, I need help. Like, I'm barely managing. We don't need, I need help.
Or sometimes when I see dogs that are rescued and they do have like 3 legs instead of 4, and
Mhm.
then we see different ways to help them, like different wheels, different chairs, different tools, and then I see, wow, that dog is doing so well. They really know how to survive. And then the other perspective is like, oh my goodness, the dog has to walk on 3 legs designed to walk on 4. Can somebody please help? And then you
Yes,
have the perspective of like, wait, but do they need help? I should ask. Because not
and
everybody wants to help.
exactly. We're talking about puppies here, you know? We're yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they can't tell you if they want help. You just have to kind of guess in their eyes.
Yes. And can I say that that's similar to children?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't vocalize what they want. You just kind of have to like pick it up in the way that
Yep.
they're behaving.
Yep. And I feel like, since Rooster and Hen is all about helping the helpers help the kids, like things like this, when we use like blocks, toys, like artwork, a story, it's to really help because they don't know. We can't verbalize. We can't have these kind of excuse me. Can you tell me about how you balance your grief with your schoolwork? Like
No, seriously, yeah.
that doesn't help. That doesn't mean anything actually. And then the answer is like, I don't know.
But you know, even adults, like, I love my parents. They're great. My dad,
Yes.
in particular, does not like emotions, and he'll tell you he doesn't like emotions. So he'll
Mm-hmm.
normally have like a show that he has been waiting to show me. Last time I went to his house, well, it was a couple times ago, he showed
Mm-hmm.
me this episode of Rick and Morty, all about the dad loving his daughter, and like
Uh-huh.
that was the whole premise. And he was just like, I really want to show you this episode. And I was like, okay. And then at the end, I like almost cried. I was like, oh, you're so cute. And he's like, did you like it? And I was like, yes, I did. Him using the other medium to talk
Oh,
about it. Yeah,
okay,
it's
okay,
very,
okay.
very cute.
That's so sweet. I'm like tearing up because I'm like, that's so
Right?
sweet.
Yeah, my
That's so
dad's
sweet.
pretty cute.
And that reminds me of, like people, when we had like radio, right, back in the day, people will call in songs and dedicate songs to their loved ones. And
Hmm.
they don't know what to say, but the DJ has to pick a song that kind of like envelops all their feelings. And that's one way, like, I have a
Hmm.
song for you. And also, like, when you go to like the card section, like Hallmark or wherever you find a card for someone, you don't know exactly what to say, but then when you get the card that says the thing that
Hmm.
like does it, you're like, okay, you don't even need to write anything in there. It's also like borrowing that because you can't, it's hard to say, you can't always do it all on your
Yeah.
own. And you need to find like proxies, like symbols and representations,
What do you
like
think your family's way of showing love is? Because like I said, my dad,
food.
it's like through media. Food, my mom too, is with
Food.
the food. Yeah.
Food. Yep. So it's like, even like if you're sorry, there's no like words for it.
It's just,
It's just, are you hungry? And then all
yes.
of a sudden, like a five course spread has appeared on the table.
Yeah.
Or like, to resolve things, there's no conversation. or like admission or discussion. There's you get home and all of a sudden your favorite dessert's on the table, or something
Mm,
stewing in the pot, and you know it's the one thing that you like that everybody doesn't like.
mm,
So I think it's definitely almost always food. It's like the it's like the it's like the olive branch. It's like the okay, are we okay? Like
yeah.
it's like the little candy bar. Like, do you
Hmm.
want some? I'll share with you. That's my family.
My dad uses media and he does it pretty well. Like he'll just put on a song or like we'll watch movies or like we'll talk about movies or articles and stuff, which is
Mm-hmm.
nice. And I think with my mom, it's just time. Like she doesn't, she it's food too. Like she is very much an acts of love person. Like
Mm-hmm.
as what is it? Acts of love,
Like
this
service.
service. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
acts of service. She definitely
It's
does
okay.
that. But I think her willingness to answer the phone as many times as I call her in a day, she definitely loves me. I can tell because I call her an
Oh,
absurd amount of times in the day.
I do remember sometimes you're like, hold on, Rebecca. I just finished talking to my mom. Hold on.
Yes, like more than once, more than once. I think
That's
I've
so
talked to
sweet.
her twice today.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
And I think, it evolves. It
Hmm.
evolves. Like I was just sharing with someone that like my mom's dad, my grandfather died when I was 8. And that was one of the earliest memories I have of a funeral. And I didn't even know he was dead. And I lived with him,
Mm,
right? And that was also part of the reason that propelled me into Rooster and Hen
wow.
resources. Because how can I live with this man, not know that he
And
died,
not know, yeah.
and then go to his funeral and like think that that's a fake body, and no one has told me anything about where I'm going, what I'm doing, and what the heck is this?
Kind of insane.
Yes, but I now, as an adult, as a parent, I get it. Your brain is filled with 5 million things at once. And
Hmm.
then add on grief of your own father. Like, you can't like make up from down, left from right, right?
Hmm.
And then it wasn't until my mom attended one of our Rooster and Hen like community events, due to the peer pressure of her auntie friends that came, right? And it's like, oh, well, I heard that your daughter's doing this thing. I didn't see you at the first session. Are you going to the second one? Do you not support her work in the community?
Screaming.
Yeah. So then my mom will go, I was just busy. I'm going. And then she'll go. And then, she came and heard the talk. And it was the first time in like 30 years she's ever said anything about my grandfather in public, out loud. And she
Mm,
literally, all she said is, I miss him. And that was a lot. And she
yeah.
and she painted a picture of apples because he used to peel apples, like where the skin doesn't break, and then
Hmm.
he'll used to carve like figures into the apples, like
Mm,
letters of my name, just different things. Um, and that was like her memory of her childhood. And that's a memory I
yeah.
share with her of my childhood with my grandfather. So I think, it like takes the time that it takes, and then their expression can evolve and change given circumstances. And really, when you're ripe for it, right? When they feel ready and they feel
Yeah.
safe to do it. Um, okay, I finished my model. Are you
Me
ready to share
too.
yours? Okay, why
Yes.
don't you go
Whew.
first?
Okay.
Oh,
So, um,
okay.
kind of tall.
Yep.
There's somebody climbing up the ladder, going through all these windows, balancing this broken bike. And then at the top, we have this balance of like, I think it's a newspaper, but it represents like the writing and the poems and all that stuff, and like growth versus really toxic ways of dealing, like just hack it all up, just be angry, chop a tree. I have one friend, he literally chops wood when he's mad because he doesn't know what else to do with it. He just goes and chops wood. It's kind of just like there are different ways to cope, but
Yeah.
this is like the person trying to get to you in your grief through all the ways that you've put up and all the, like through the looking glass, through all the windows, trying to get to you.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Let me
sharing.
see yours.
Okay, here's mine so far.
Mhm.
So here's his head. This head. I feel like a headless chicken, or like whatever, a chicken like running around without a. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. I'm just running around. And what I need is like this bridge to stability, right? But like you see this bridge,
Mm-hmm.
this bridge needs a lot of like foundation. It
Mm-hmm.
needs a lot of things. Like there's no one pillar because it's not enough. Like I feel like balance means you're kind of constantly trying to figure out what's going to keep this up. But wait, now this one's like a little too heavy, right? It's going to tip over. We're going to need some on this side. Oh, we're going to need like this like magenta pink cement block on the right that could withstand even more weight to counter things should it happen. So like I feel like this balance is always an equation. It's like it's dynamic, right? It's never static. So you need to build enough buildable things, like buildable pieces to add on so that you can expect that it will teeter, right? And then you need the room to like go back again, right? And it's going to teeter. And then you need the room to build something else to counter and counter. And it's not countering to dismiss what's happening, it's to counter so you don't fall off the edge.
Mm-hmm.
It's so you cause you like, so you're like, I don't think I'm ever standing like this. I'm always like this. Like, okay,
I don't know. You
okay.
looked cool as a cucumber.
But it's because I don't know. I feel like because there's this even that understanding that it will teeter helps create balance in me because I expect it. If I expect myself to be like this, which I feel like is how I was raised and grew up, that I needed to be so stable, so firm all the time that it didn't allow any grace for any teetering. But now knowing that, no, 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 I expect grief to be messy. I expect me not to know all the answers. I expect to teeter. I expect to need help. I expect that I will have hard time asking for help. I expect that I'm going to be upset and mad when I ask for help and when I get it. And then I expect that all these things, then I'm okay. I'm okay with the teetering, right? And then I think that creates this sense of calm, even like in this chaos. Because I feel like, one, it it's part of the journey and it's part of the process. And I have things to depend on. I have other things than myself to depend on because either I've been embraced or I've built supports to help, right? Oh,
I
thank
like
you,
it.
Lauren. Let's show
Welcome.
it. Let's show off. I don't know how to take a picture now that all my hands are like not free.
Oh,
Do
oh,
you know how to do it?
I don't. I could take a screenshot, maybe.
Well,
Okay,
maybe
ready?
we'll do
One.
this.
Got it.
Okay, and then I'm sure we can capture it later. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Of course. Thank you. This was super fun.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your honesty.
My pleasure.
Okay, until next time.